Hey, what's up, everybody? We're going to try and get this in the old holder. If I can do a halfway decent job of doing that, which is always a maybe. We're going to see if anybody shows up. Hey, we already got a few. Urgh. Bam. Also, I got to say, there's a certain sergeant out there. If he watches today, Sergeant Thompson, thank you so much for the flag, and I'll be showing off what we're going to do with it here very soon. It's going to go to a really cool display in our reptile house. So, first and foremost was for me to say thank you to him, just in case he happens to tune in, because it takes us a little bit to get that up there. So, anyway, all right. Hell yeah, DM Stu's going to do a Patreon live as well. As a matter of fact, on the Patreon live, I got a really cool announcement for y'all. But this isn't the Patreon live just yet. We'll do that after. This is a YouTube live. And we do have a, well, thank you for all the support there. I love all y'all too. Oh, God, I love RC Co-op. Probably want that. Anyway, we do have a topic I want to discuss. And it is in response to a video I watch. I don't get to watch many videos, okay? Like, I don't have time. So, sorry for bad timing. And I watched one today while I had a little bit of downtime while I was trying to eat some food. And, boy, it really kind of, I don't know what I think of it. I don't know. And it's because it's kind of an unfinished thing. And they're talking about big natural enclosures, and they're talking about tubs and talking about having this big whole meeting and talking to all these people and letting people call in and do this and all that, which is great, but nobody invited me. And so I thought, you know what? Let me give my opinion, because what I'm going to give and what we can talk about is going to be straight up legit, because I don't give a shit what most people think. And a lot of other people involved in that, well, frankly, they may care what people think, and I have seen evidence where people thoughts and comments and everything else will kind of influence what people do. And for us, it really doesn't. What influences what we do is our own experience, our own research, and what works best. If I find something works better than what I'm doing, I will change. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna. So let's get that out first and foremost. Now, when it comes to these different types of enclosures, let's talk about what is good and what is not good. Sarcasm, sometimes. No, it's only my part-time job, but, and I'll get to that, G-Man, that's a whole other discussion, and I'll just say right now, I'm against it. If you're going to keep it hot, keep it hot. I do know some places where they've been required to, they didn't want to, and it was forced upon them, and I can understand that. But typically, if you're going to keep it hot, keep it hot. And I don't know if I'm going to show some snakes or not. This is more going to be topic influence. So let's get on the topic, and everybody kind of help me stay on there, because y'all know I'll ADHD all over the goddamn place. So, first of all, I have both types of enclosures. Let's cover that right now. I'm not married to one or the other. I have a lot of, we own part of a reptile zoo, for crying out loud. Now it's not as big as some other ones, but it has like 45 type different exhibits. And you guys have seen videos in there where there's these big like molded rock enclosures all custom made, and it looks really kick-ass, and it is awesome. It's an awesome experience to go through. It's an awesome experience to work in there, and I love seeing my animals in there. I love seeing the animals I don't work in there, right? And so I really enjoy doing that. Now, let's look at my house. So here you see I've got all racks, but you guys have really seen recently, we have added some really cool TGR cages that we can set up natural environments in for different snakes, to include, like, we got our Gaboon Viper in one, our Scaleless in one, and we're going to be adding more and more of that. We're going to do an entire room in that with more and more kind of cool looking stuff to have kind of our own private zoo, and our zoo to share with people who visit, and especially our Patreon members. So that's coming. So I'm not against that. But I'm also not against racks. And I think it really goes down and depends on what you're doing with your animals. And it depends on the type of animals you keep. And I'll get to comments, but let me get through this topic, and then I want to take some discussion on that. So basically, for me, it's like this. If you're going to breed snakes, you're going to breed ball pythons. Let's talk specifically about ball pythons for a minute. This is the best way to go. Wasn't so long if you were posting big old cages with a bunch of glass, you'd get your ass ripped. This is how it's done best. Here's why. When you set this up, and yeah, it can be minimalistic, and yeah, it doesn't look, super cool when you open it up, and yeah, it's not going to be super exciting display for you or me, but we are not the ones that matter. It's giving the snake the best environment for what it needs, which is security. It needs food. It needs a humidity. Good pop right there on humidity, and all these things that it needs. And this is the best way to do that. Thank you so much, Oregon Exotic Balls, Tyler Cunningham. I really appreciate that. No, it's not too late in the season to breed, and I'll prove it. I'm going to prove that to you right now because I can get this thing to do what I want to. He gave me a free one. If they give you free ones, use them all right here, baby. Let me flip this camera on. Is it too late to breed? Well, let's see. We are late in the year, and this is the thing. We're going to open some of these anyway. So like right here is a very minimalist cage. Thank you, Tyler. But we got everything they need. We got water dish, easy to clean, easy to take care of with, the removable ones. Got some coconut in it, no big deal. We've also got, and you can see they're not locked. It looks like they are, but the male's on top. He's trying. And everything is here. Good heat, good humidity, controlled by really kick-ass Herpstat 6. So you have everything you need. And we are still getting breeding locks during the year right now. If you look close, you'll see that tail up. There's one, I believe, right there. So they are still coming. What? You know what? Let me turn my sound down. There we go. And my point that I want to make is, you forgot your password to donate. These are the way to go for what we're doing for breed systems. It just is. If we were to go and put all of our snakes in these really big open enclosures for ball pythons with all kinds of trees. Thank you so much, Jose Vargas. I really appreciate that. And do all those things. What would happen is, one, they would breed like crap, most likely, or not as well. They're not going to feel as secure. Two, we wouldn't be able to keep as many. And you think, well, what's the problem with that? It comes back to the consumer. So right now, we're selling, say, a pastel for $75 to $90. And thank you so much, Jonathan Siegel. I really appreciate that too. If we started can only have very few snakes because we got these big natural enclosures we're trying to breed in, that price is not going to be $75 to $90 anymore. There's going to be so much less in the market. Supply and demand will dictate price, and you're going to end up paying a lot more. Not significantly. I mean, not a little more. You're talking significantly more if everybody bred that way. It is what it is. Went live with my breed name. Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate people rocking that. So it's just one of those things that, like, one, this is the most simplistic way of keeping them. Two, when it's simple and easy and you've got this many snakes, you're going to provide the best care in this situation. Not all of us are going to be running crews and hiring employees. And I don't want to see this type of system trashed because this is proven. It works wonderful. The animals are healthy. They don't have human emotions. We try to do that. And even I'm guilty of that, right? We do it ourselves. We put human emotions onto our animals. They don't have them. They operate different. Even my dog is capable of love. My dog is capable of all kinds of things, but we put more human emotions on my dog. I will buy him a collar because I'm like, oh, I bet he needs a new collar. And this is really cool looking. It's awesome. The dog doesn't give a shit what his collar looks like. I promise you, he doesn't go, oh man, this collar makes me look fat. But we put that on our animals. We do the same for our snakes, and we need to be cognizant of that and understand that when it comes to breeding, this is what's going to get the job done best. It's secure, they're fed well, they're well taken care of, it's easy to spot problems, it's easy to clean problems, it's easy to take care of problems. It's the way things get done for a reason. Now, when you're going to do a big old zoo, you can't do a zoo like this. People are going to not understand it, and I get that. We need collars first. If somebody says it on YouTube, you probably do, right? So, there's a point to the big type of zoo cage. But if you look at all my big cages, I don't have a ball python in any of them. There's a reason for that. And, we're not going to do that. I would not put my ball python in a big exposed cage. I don't think it's going to be successful. Now, if you're keeping one or two snakes and you want cages you can see in, that's fine. The best ones for that are ones that are going to be, basically boxes with one open glass area or plex area that you can see into. And if not, you can make glass work by covering some sides and fighting the humidity, and you can do that. So that can be done really easy. But you're right, they don't like being seen all the time. And good, me, I'm glad you got some. So I want to point that out. And no, reptiles don't need to bask. Some reptiles need to bask. These guys are going to do better with belly heat because what they do in nature, they come out and get on a spot that's been warmed by the sun as it's getting dark, similar to rattlesnake on the road. Now, my rattlesnakes, I usually put overhead heat on a rock close to the den hole in their hide area, so they can come out of that and warm like they do in nature and then go back. So you're trying to kind of augment and create some of that. These guys live in burrows in the wild. Burrows, big dark holes, right? So that's what we're really doing. That's why this is very successful for breeding and everything else. Now, does that mean you should throw every kind of snake in a tub? No. Green tree pythons, not appropriate in tubs. Okay. Carpet pythons, not the best setup for them. We've done it. I'm not going to lie. We did it for a little while because we had to. And you're going to recently see what we moved to. That's going to happen. I'm not going to say I'm perfect or, I'm always the answer and I'm always the way. That'd be assholeish of me and not true. But certain things aren't appropriate in tubs. Let me tell you what kicked all this off. Why we're at where we're at now. People started getting hate on rack systems. We always have. We always will. I was once that guy. When I was first getting into snakes and I'd see these big breeder racks, I'd be like, holy crap, is that really the best way to do that? Like, you're putting a snake in a little dark box? That's kind of fucked. But then I started researching it. I started getting more into it, and I started really looking, and I started learning because it wasn't, just let me go on there and rip everybody. And guess what? I found out. This is the best way to do things, right? And I guess I missed it because I can't keep up with what's going on as I'm in here having a rah. So racks are great for breeding ball pythons. It's a fact. Not great for GTPs. And this got kicked off because rack systems having snakes that were not appropriate for rack systems. And then it gave fire and credence. And then there's people who were knowledgeable complaining. But they weren't complaining about ball pythons in racks. The ones complaining about that because they don't understand. They don't know. It's usually complaining from ignorance. But complaining about sticking a big ass Burmese python in a tub that it's a third the body length of the python on the long side, yeah, people are going to complain about that. And people with knowledge are going to complain about that. Now, I'm not a Burmese python guy, so I'm not going to say you can't do it or you can or it's the right way. But I understand why people would be upset about that. So the point I want to make here is no matter what gets said by other people when they do, the invitation only deal, I do keep my balls in the dark. I wanted to get my opinion there first. That way nobody can say, oh, well, you're only saying this because so-and-so said it. This is how you feel because... I don't know how anybody else is going to say anything. I don't know where anybody else stands. I know it's happening, but I wanted you to hear it from me, what I thought. And if you have questions or comments, this is the time to talk about this topic, and then we'll cover a few other things if we got some time. But right now, I want to know what you guys think about breeding ball pythons in rack systems versus large cages. And nobody get mean to anybody who has a comment. I really want to hear what the thought process is. So this is your chance. So let's have this conversation. You know what? Serenity, I probably don't. And the only reason I don't is, let me paraphrase that, is if I was invited, yeah, it'd be great. But when they're doing that, I'm most likely going to be on my honeymoon. So I'm not going to take time away from my wife to do that. All right, so what I'm really seeing is racks. And I agree, 100%. If you're going to have a collection and you're going to work it, because let me tell you, man, I work 40 hours a week at my day job, right? And I work a lot of hours, and I'm not going to say the exact number on this because I'm only 20 hours a week because that's what I'm allowed to work by policy at my day job. And if I was trying to do this in glass cages, I never could. And I would imagine that my snakes would have more problems. As a matter of fact, I know there's a video right now about how my snake hasn't eaten in 14 months, but is perfectly okay. And look what they keep it in glass. I couldn't imagine having a snake not eat for 14 months, and that, for the record, is not healthy. Uh, could there be a reason for it? Sure. Can it be done in glass? Sure. Uh, can it be done in big display cages? Sure. It just, this is simple and it's the easiest way. And that one, I don't think, if it's being force fed, I didn't hear that. But, and I'm not trying to rip into that too much, but it just kind of makes me laugh that, yeah. Uh, and you shouldn't have to force feed an adult snake very often. I've never had to do that. And I agree, you'd have better control of everything. Switch to racks. Okay, and we all started in glass, Anna. Like, I think everybody that has racks started in glass tanks. I know I did. And about 4, then I started making separate tubs, and I was like, the hell with it, and we went to racks. Well, then, if that's the case, I will say, and this is for Satama. I'm sorry I'm saying that wrong. I apologize. I completely disagree with that. Now, that's their right to do it, but it's not about making the snake do what we want the snake to do. That's not proper husbandry or proper keeping. Proper keeping is doing what's best for the individual animal. And and that's one of the reasons why I like racks for ball pythons, but I don't stick my GTPs in them. As I can provide the optimum setup for what they need. They don't need fancy plants. They don't give a shit about that. They want security, safety, food, and if something comes along they can breed, they want to be able to do that. Now, they don't need to breed to be happy, so if you got a ball python you never plan on breeding, that's perfectly okay. But when you keep a bunch of males and females and the pheromones running around, trust me, they're going to want to do it. I don't get nose rubs. I don't get infections. I don't get sickness. I've never once had respiratory in here. I find everything is easy to treat. I also prefer substrate over paper. That's personal preference. People prefer paper because it's easy to change. It's just, for me, it's definitely racks. Definitely. Oh, I didn't even see Andy from DA was in here. That's awesome. They do. You know what? As far as what rack is best, I mean, obviously I'm going to say TGR, and I believe that too. I'm not just saying that because it's a sponsor. I wouldn't have let them sponsor me if I didn't believe in the product. And one thing I like about them is you don't have to buy a huge piece. You can get a 5-stack, and then you can add to it and piece together as you grow. And so I really like that idea. So, and yeah, those TGR cages are phenomenal. And if I was going to do a ball python in one, I think it could be done. I wouldn't get the overhead heat for a ball python. What I would do is drill a hole in the back and take a piece of glass, attach a heat mat, run the cord out, run it to a thermostat, control it, thermostat here, and then set that in the bottom. So that's what I would do, and that's just me and how I set that up. And I've done that before. You can, that way you can control that heat, and you can still run belly heat. And so they and the TGR racks come. You can order them, however, because they started doing, and that's kind of just a TGR and Freedom Breeder. I mean, one's material. They use Freedom Breeder tubs, but the material's different. They use XPVC. It makes them very light, very easy to move, and you can buy 5 at a time, single stacks, where you can do whatever to make it fit, which is one of the reasons why I really, really love them. Where Freedom Breeder, you're buying a lot bigger thing. Usually, I think they've gone to single stacks now too that you can do. So don't quote me on that. Cusco would be the guy to ask about Freedom Breeder for sure. Now, one thing here, you can order the heat, or if you're in an ambient temp, you don't have to get the heat. So they'll price you a bare bones rack, and then everything you want to go with it, you can order on up, like tubs. If you want, heat, you can order heat. If you want extra ventilation, you can order extra ventilation depending on what species you're keeping. Side panels, and the customizable features of the TGR rack is one other thing I really, really think is awesome. Because if you're running ambient temp, which I'm not, I'm a heat guy. But a lot of people run ambient temp very successfully. Then why in the hell are you paying for heat tape? I mean, you're paying for some shit you don't need. Well, TGR, you don't have to do that. So, hello, Caden. Glad to hear kids get into snakes. That is awesome. I'll try not to swear, but I won't make any promises. So, Any more comments for maybe the other side of the fence? Because I get a lot of people here saying racks, racks, racks are the way to go. But if somebody's got a point that they want to raise for not doing rack systems, I do want to hear it. And I want everybody to be nice to them if they share it. We're not going to rip into anybody or tear anybody apart. That's not what I'm about. Unless they're being an asshole, then it's different. The display for the Gaboon. I like the display for the Gaboon. But here's the thing, too. I honestly think that displays are more for us. I do that display and I love looking at it. I'll sit and watch it. I get that point, man. It makes me happy. And having a big, nice display is a lot more exciting than opening the tub. But if you're talking about what's meeting the animal's needs and letting us do the best care for the animal, having a bunch of bacteria holding fake plants and other junk in there is not going to, things that the snake can strike when it's trying to strike food or whatever, it's not really helping the situation. So, and Dim Studios, that's a very valid point. But again, I think that's very species dependent. So your species that tend to den a lot or tend to stay underground a lot, I don't think they need a day-night cycle. Now, if you're running a diurnal species that comes out during the day a lot of times, or a daytime species, then yeah, you're going to struggle with that, and it may not be the appropriate thing for that animal. I 100% agree on that, and that's why there's such an issue. Like, you can't say racks are great for everything, because they're not. But to say racks are crap for everything, you can't do that either. Racks have a place, a very important place. But so does caging. And, like my rattlesnakes are on day-night cycles. Now, we do have some in racks that were raised in racks that were captive born, but things I take out of the wild, we always run a day-night cycle because we're used to that. And then, of course, things in our zoo getting day-night cycles. And truth be told, we're working towards the goal of getting rid of our rack for venomous and having all of them in display cages because I want to see them. I don't like working them in those tubs. So that is something that we are doing, because we do change when things strike us to need a change. But by ball pythons, they're going to stay in racks. It does go both ways, absolutely. As far as other passions, yeah, I do, but we're going to stick to reptiles on these. I mean, I like a lot of shit. I love cars, tons of cars. I agree, DA. I do, especially if you're breeding these. Now, they make other enclosures that you can do, like you can do certain types of rack systems with lighting. I know actually TGR makes some. I don't have any, but they do make some. And if you did deeper tubs, you could do some semi-arboreal stuff in them as long as you can get them up off the ground. So you can do, but like this type of rack, I wouldn't go sticking GTPs in. Yes, Patrick, I have, but not with these. My old homemade piece of shit racks, I had some escapees. So, and that is true, Alexander Cortez. So Alexander brought up a good point. So I want to read that in case you guys missed it. He said racks don't provide verticality, I think is how I want to say that word. That's admittedly less important for balls than say retics or most boas. And they also don't give room to soak with such tiny water dishes. That is true. So let's cover that. I agree with you. Certain things, it's very important to have that verticality. Again, that's kind of why I say not appropriate for green trees. Your carpets should probably be on something different. You can do a carpet here, but not the best way. And I agree. I agree with you 100% on that. Now, when it comes to the water dish, you're right. They can't fully soak, but they shouldn't really need to fully soak. If your ball python is fully soaking, you may have some issues with temperature, and you may also have some issues with mites, or you could have some humidity issues. So when you're running with this, then you don't really have that problem that I've noticed. And if I need to soak one, I can give it a bath. Yeah, a big water dish is nice for that, but it's not always necessary. And that is one thing I'd say is a detractor. So I'll give you that. But there's ways I work around that. Now, I know I missed a few things. What about space for two hides? Yeah, you can. I mean, oh, that's empty. I want to find one of this. It depends on these FB70s. You could, but you don't usually need it. As a matter of fact, I don't run hides in most of my racks because if the animal it's about reading the animal. So like if you can read your animals, and your animals will tell you if things are good, and if I hate to use the word happy, comfortable is probably a better word, not stressed. You can stress a reptile to death. So if that reptile is pooping, if it's eating, if it's not just biting at everything, unless it's just an asshole or some of those, and all of those things, then it's getting what it needs. And these act as a big dark hole. So they're kind of like a big hide. Now, some of them will require a smaller hide. So, like, I'll give you a perfect example. In this cage here, which nobody's in right now because he's out to breed, I keep a hide, cereal bowl with a hole cut in it, right? And I keep that because this particular snake, when I first got him, he told me he didn't like that much space and he needed a hide. So I gave him one, and he was successful. And I do that with different animals on several occasions. So it's all about reading your animals and giving them what's best for them. And you can't put, if these were all round pegs, every now and then you get a square peg and you got to do something different with it. My big carpet python male is the same kind of way. He, you know, okay, you see me? Okay, hopefully I see you. He'll only eat frozen thawed. I feed mostly live. He gets frozen thawed. That's all he'll eat. And, I mean, you've got to do what your animal requires. If it requires a hide, you got to do a hide. But you can fit hides in these. As a matter of fact, I want to say it's Snake Discovery. Don't quote me, I don't get a chance to watch tons of videos. But I think she sets her racks up with, especially for her pet ones, with a couple of hides and things. And you can do that if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's needed, sometimes it's not. So, a fan. I saw a fan OS snakes. I'm like, what? I got of snakes. Got auto corrected, man. Hate autocorrect. Super pastel xanthic's looking great. It's actually in shed right now, but it eats it wonderfully. I'll give you an example too of a snake that's thriving in a rack right now. That's taking some fight. Where are you at, little buddy? Wait, you're here. This little guy. So he's in a teeny tiny rack, but this is when we had to start a cyst feed. If I put him in a big cage, he'd die. I guarantee it. He needs that security, and now he's eating on his own. This was a little ghost that was born from a really teeny tiny boob egg. For the first clutch egg cutting, I will make the first 2 clutches of egg cutting, but it looks like by calendar that Kurt's going to have to handle the 3rd one this year. So thank you, Frank Tatus. I want to make sure I say that right. We plan to do more of those. How big do they grow in captivity? Well, you know what? Truth be told, to show you my really big ones, I can't. One of them's breeding, and the other 2 have been moved over to the reptile house because they already laid. So, but you can get about 4,000 grams. I'd say would be big in captivity. So, all right, guys. Probably going to hop off of here in a few minutes. And don't worry, David. I'll show you the darkness over on Patreon. I know you'll be there. And Eric, not to the general public, I don't. We're about to release the last clutch of the year, but we'll release it to Patreon first. And that's just kind of the way we do things. Boom! Hold on before I go. Kevin just hit something great. And that's a humidity thing, right? So his snake, he said, was having problems in glass shedding, and we've all been there. He moved it to a tub, and it sheds perfect. Now, that's not to say you're never going to have a bad shed in a tub. I have them occasionally. We all do. So say, I'll never have a bad shed. You're going to have one. But it improved his problem going here. And that's kind of the point I'm making, Snake Union, let's do it. If you give them the proper care in here, it's so much easier to maintain those things. And it's great. Well, the wedding already happened, Sherry. We got married. It'll be a year ago when we're gone. So we basically did a little destination wedding, not real far away, about 4 or 5 hours. And so we didn't really get to take a honeymoon. We had to take off a week and do all that. And it took a long time. So we'll have to do our honeymoon now. And you can put humidity boxes in the glass enclosures. You absolutely can do that. There's things you can do, but like if it's more difficult, you're not going to do as much with it. You're just not. I mean, think about when you come home from a long day at work, you've been working 40 hours and all this, and then you got 25 snakes to take care of, and they're all in glass tanks, and it's a pain in the ass. You're not going to mess with it as much. This is so much easier. One of the reasons why it works better. Two, I don't have to go add a bunch of crap to control my humidity. Works easier and better. The heat regulates great in these. There's just, you know, no, he does not. Oh, I missed something from Derek that I don't do, and apparently Snake Discovery does. Maybe that's like decorate the inside of your tubs. How often can you feed it, Edgar? You really probably shouldn't feed it one more than once a week. Now, baby, you can go every 5 days, but after that, about once a week, you don't want to power feed it, and they'll grow as quick as they grow. Some faster than others, man. But power feeding them can cause some fatty issues and can actually be bad for your health. So, oh, see through. Yeah, I don't do the see through tubs, and here's why I don't. Again, it comes down to the species. These are all specific for ball pythons, so by doing the dark tubs, they're going to be in that dark hole they want to be in where they feel like they're not going to get eaten by shit. So this is a really good way to keep them. Now my baby tubs are all semi-clear because that's what they come in. It is what it is. It will cut their life expectancy when you power feed, so don't power feed your snakes. Once a week, appropriately sized meal, they'll grow well. So, and that could be. I mean, if you're going to have them in a lot of clear air they can see out, hides may be more important. And again, I'm not ripping what anybody else does. It's not my goal. I'm just taking that away. That's not what I want to do. I just wanted to get my opinion out there before there's all that and people start jumping on it and they're like, oh, well, you only say this because of so and so. No, I say what I say because it's what I believe. And sometimes I may be in agreement with people over here. Sometimes I may be in agreement with people over here. It's just kind of the way it is. Uh, our members get a 10% discount on TGR. So that's where that's at. Off feed, for me, I think my record is about 6.5 months. And I tell you, you still get it. I got a snake right now being an ass about feed. I got several right now because it's breeding season. But I got one being a true ass. And it's one of my favorite snakes, my oldest one. Good night, going Youper. And what I tend to do with him is right now all he'll eat is mice. So I found what he'll take, and I feed him that. And eventually he'll get back on rats, and all will be well. But I'm not going to sit there and just bang my head against the wall trying to force him to do what I want when he's going to do what he's going to do. It's my job as a keeper to find what works best for my animals, not the other way around. It's not my animal's job to do what works best for me or to make me feel good about myself or to make me, famous and make my critics happy. My job is to tell my critics to suck my ass and take care of my animals the right way. My job is to provide the best care where they're the healthiest and they're again, happy's me putting human emotion on them, but where they're the healthiest and they're thriving. That's what my job is. So, uh, actually, KRDP, Reaper is pretty cool and easy to handle. And Red's, Kali, she's terrible, man. But like I got other Diamondbacks that are pretty easy to handle. Yeah, it's a snake personality thing, and I've got some ideas on why she's that way. I do plan on changing her environment around completely to see if maybe that'll help, but I don't think it will. I think it has to do with when she was young, she did take a bite from another Diamondback, and I think that kind of made her pissy. So she's quick to be defensive. She's quick to defend herself and her area, and she don't put up any shit. But I have other Diamondbacks that are much easier to handle. So it is, you know, different per snake. You know, it just is. And Reaper's been in captivity longer. And that being said, I wouldn't recommend going and free handling Reaper. Like, I think your day is going to not work that well if you do that. Oh man, Alexander, I'll tell you what. You never really hear me talk about corn snakes because my experience with them is very, very minimal. There's some really pretty ones out there, but I can't tell you what's the easiest to breed or what does the best. I'm just not a corn guy. Like, if there's a weak spot I have in my reptile game, and there's probably 1,000 of them, it is I'm very specific to certain things. So I really like my carpet pythons and my chondro stuff. And I'm not an expert in that. Like, I know enough to be dangerous. There are people way more knowledgeable in GTP things and carpets than I am. I love my ball pythons. I like what I do. I feel confident what I do, and I feel good about how I'm doing that. And I also love my rattlesnake species. So those are the things I feel great about. but your corns and those other ones, I know a little, but I'm not really the best guy to ask. All right, Amanda, where's your thermostat mounted? And we're gonna fix that for you, or I'm gonna tell you what's going on, at least I think. So, are you mounting it in the tub like we do? At the bottom of the tub, perfect. So your thermostat probe, the temp it's reading is going to be a correct temp. Now your gun, are you using substrate? I'm going to bet you're using substrate, and I'm going to bet you're not using paper towels. Is that correct? Gotta wait for that answer to see if I'm right. It's like mind reading here. Yes. So what's happening is, how thick is your substrate? This, or is it thin? Big or little? I'm going to bet big. And close to the substrate is going to help a lot. It's thin. Okay. I was thinking it would be a little bit big. So what's probably happening is I'm going to guess you're using like a coconut based, like what we use, or something similar. So what's going to happen is that's going to lift a little bit. So it's going to be a little cooler up here than it is down here. But when the snake's laying on that, that's all going to compact down. They're going to be pretty close to what that thing's reading. So I don't worry so much about that surface, because there's also going to be more air in that surface. It's spongy. So when the snake lays in that hot spot, it's going to be laying almost directly on that probe, and it's going to be right there. So I think you're going to find that, if you crank it up to get that 85 up to 90 on the surface temp, you're probably going to be too hot. I literally set mine at 90, and they work. They work really, really well, to the point that most of our females are relay. We're running a little late season this year, but I know a lot of other people are. And but we have a lot of ovulating, a lot of things going on. We have a really high hatch rate, so we're not overcooking our eggs inside there. And so I think that if you're using a high-end, a good thermostat with a good probe, and it's not waterlogged, trust your probe. So, all right, guys, let me, yes, you can stop panicking. Let me hop up off of here and slide over to Patreon. Thank you guys so much for listening to me rant and give me your opinions. And it sounds like most people say, hey, look, ball pythons and racks go together like peanut butter and jelly. But agree, let's not go throwing GTPs in them. All right, guys, I'll see you later. We'll catch Patreon here in just a few minutes.